wrote it, but took it seriously. Everybody who works for the T knows it. I didn't do it to curry. I mean, just, why don't other governors do that? I don't know. Do them a lot of good, let me tell you. I learned a lot of things. Tell you one quick story. When I was first elected in '74, if you think the T is in rough shape these days, it should have been around 1974. I think it was a basket case. The old trolley cars were breaking down 3 days out of 5. It was awful. And so I get elected, right? And I refuse to have security. No security, no security. And I'm taking the T to work. You can't take the T to work, you're the governor. I'm taking the T to work. So I get on the streetcar, you know, as I usually do, going to the State House. This goes on for about a month. Hi, nice to see you. And these streetcars are breaking down constantly. Well, after about a month, people start saying to me, hey, you the governor? No. What's going on? I finally went up to the motorman, and I said, what the hell is going on? He said, they're not replacing the pans. I said, they're not doing what? He said, they're not replacing the pans. I said, what's a pan? He said, it's a piece of metal that's bolted to the underside of the streetcar and protects the works from snow and ice. And I said, and they're not replacing it. It was February. Well, they had ordered new cars. Turns out the new cars were the worst streetcars ever made, but that's a whole other story. And I guess somebody thought they'd save money by not replacing the pans. So I got to the State House, I picked up the phone, and I called my Secretary of Transportation and said, Fred, I have it on good authority that they're not replacing the pans. He said, that couldn't be. He said, I'll check and call you back. 2 hours later, he said, they're not replacing the pans. We replaced the pans. Why? Because that motorman knew what the problem was. You know, ask the folks that work there. But there's always been, I've always had a great relationship with these folks because they say, hey, this guy values what we do. And I really do. Believe me, it's not the union, and it's not the, this is just terrible management. That's the problem. And I hope the new governor is going to, and his Secretary of Transportation, recently of Northeastern University, is going to change that. Who's next? What do we got? Zach, we're running out of time.
All right, well, my question's about gun control.
Yeah.
Especially in comparison to the Chicago area, which is, I guess, you know, right next to lax gun law states like Wisconsin and Indiana. How has Massachusetts had so much success in reducing gun crime while bordering Vermont and New Hampshire?
Interesting you asked that question because when I leave you, I'm heading downtown to a kind of a testimonial of sorts for a guy named John Rosenthal, who was the guy that is responsible for the big billboard on the turnpike.
Near Fenway?
Near Fenway.
Do people know? So when you're driving on the pike, it counts.
Number gun homicides.
Unfortunately, no longer.
Yeah, is it coming down? Why is it coming down?
Oh, Red Sox now.
Anyway, and John's parents were big supporters of mine, and I'm a big fan of his, and so he's asked me to come down. Massachusetts has, I think it's fair to say, Zach, the toughest gun laws in the country. You got to be licensed, and not just licensed to possess the thing. If you carry the thing out of your house, a concealable handgun, you must have a license to carry, quote unquote, which can only be issued by a local police chief. Now, of course, that varies. You've got some police chiefs that are very tough and other police chiefs that are not so tough. Where do you think Massachusetts ranks when it comes to homicide in this country? Second lowest. Only Hawaii is lower, and I think that's probably cultural, to tell you the truth. No, I'm serious. I think there's another way. Plenty of warm states.
Yeah, there are warm areas with a lot of violence.
The homicide rate in Marco Rubio's Florida is quite high. Matter of fact, do you hear what Rubio said after the Democratic debate? Said it sounds like a lot of Dukakis Democrats. I guess he doesn't believe in government doing anything. I don't know. But I think there's a very close relationship between. Now, the law has to be implemented. I discovered as governor that the Boston police were not effectively implementing that law. And by the way, if you are caught without a license to carry, with a concealable handgun, you go to jail for a year, mandatory. I'm not a big fan of mandatory sentences, but in this case, a short mandatory sentence. So what was happening? Cops were taking their lives in their hands in Boston and arresting people with concealable handguns. And then, when their trial was called in the Boston Municipal Court, they weren't showing up. And nobody was doing anything about it. So the word got out in the street. Where are my CJ majors here? Word got out in the street, just don't show up. And there was a backlog of 300 gun cases in the Boston Municipal Court. It was just sitting there. Now, how long do you think it takes to try one of these guys who's caught with a handgun without a license to carry? It's about a 10-minute trial, right? Had a gun, test fired, it worked, off to the Suffolk jail for a year. But it wasn't happening. I was furious. And I finally said, okay, we're going to meet every other Saturday morning in the governor's office, including the chief judge of the municipal court, who was very, very unhappy that he had to get out of bed and come to the State House on a Saturday morning. And representatives of the Boston Police Force, DAs, and so on and so forth. And we're going to start a very simple information system here, right? Nothing fancy. We're going to look at those 300, and we're going to see how many cases have been tried and disposed of every 2 weeks. And I want a first-rate judge, I said, Your Honor, to be assigned to these cases full-time until we get that backlog down to zero. Now, this is a little crazy. Imagine the governor has to have a meeting in his office every other Saturday to make sure that the gun laws are enforced. But the reason I did that was because the difference between the conviction rate outside of Boston, in the rest of the state, and inside Boston was so dramatic. I mean, something obviously was wrong. And in fact, the chief judge of the district court at the time and the Boston Police Commissioner were having constant arguments at something called the Governor's Anti-Crime Council, which was my kind of law enforcement policy group that met every month because of this. Sure enough, we reduced it to zero, and homicides went down. Isn't that amazing? Now, why does Boston, Zach, will Boston in 1 year have a number of homicides maybe equal to a couple of weekends in Chicago lately? I don't know. I don't know what the problem is out there. I think they have relatively tough gun laws. Are they enforcing them? I don't know. But there's no sense in passing a law, folks, if you don't implement it vigorously and effectively. But nobody's going to tell me that there isn't a relationship between our laws and... Now, when I was governor, I actually put up signs at the major entrances to the state on major highways which said, warning, Massachusetts gun laws impose 1 year mandatory sentence for however you describe it, which I thought was kind of good because it reminded everybody, including Massachusetts folks, coming back. As soon as my pal Bill Well got elected, he took him down. Now, Well and I are doing some interesting things together. We agree on some things, but I thought that sign up there, at various entrances to the state. And by the way, I mean, out-of-staters were entitled to that. Now, there are people in the Congress, in case you're not aware of this, that are now trying to pass federal laws that will prohibit states from enforcing their own gun laws if the particular person who comes into the state comes from a state with a right to carry law. What do you think of that? These guys call themselves Republicans. I thought they were for states' rights. Apparently not when it comes to guns. I mean, the NRA practically owns Congress. Now, will it change? I don't know. One of the things I liked about Hillary's performance, and it was a good one, was no fooling around when it came to the NRA. No fooling around. She's got guts, this gal. And she was right out there when poor old Bernie, who's a good guy, was having a little difficulty. Why? Well, he comes from a rural state with a lot of gun folks. And Vermont, interestingly, despite its liberalism, has very, very weak gun laws. I don't even know if they have any. So, but I do think, Zach, I don't think there's any question that if, assuming this law of ours is enforced effectively and tenaciously, it is having a profound effect on, we're no more holy or religious or whatever than any other state. How come we have such few gun laws? I remember when Bill Bratton, who worked for me for 6 years and came out of the Boston Police Department, is now the Commissioner of New York, as many of you know, came out to Los Angeles to take over the Los Angeles Police Department. And I was talking to him about a month after he got there, and I said, how's it going? He said, great, we're working at it. Bratton's really a remarkable police commander. But he said, this gang thing, he said, I've never run anything quite like this. 100,000 gang members. And his third weekend in LA, there were 27 homicides. That's, I think, our number right now in October in Massachusetts for the year. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I don't know, I've never run it. Well, knowing Bratton, by the time he left, not the gang problem has disappeared in Los Angeles, but police-community relations were dramatically better. And homicide rates in LA were down dramatically, violence rates. He said, look, I'm going to bring violent crime down. And he did every single year he was commissioned. So you guys, particularly who are CJ majors, I don't want to say don't go to law school, but boy, we need terrific police commanders. We need leadership in our police ranks that really understands what genuine community policing is all about. And you can make a huge difference. I mean, it's not an accident, folks, that violence in American cities is down dramatically. There's a lot to do with policing, a lot to do with the professionalization of the police profession. It's a great profession to go into, really. At that point, I think I've got to get downtown. You want to do that?
I'm not going to stop you.
Anyway, look, great to have a chance to meet with you. I'm always available, you guys working on papers, this kind of stuff, m.dukakis@neu.edu. Ninth floor of this building. And in January, February, and March, your email will reach me in the Westwood section of Los Angeles, where Kitty and I struggle to make it through the winter. I work, I don't want you to think I've got a very busy schedule, but I'm serious. I mean, if I can be helpful in any way, let me know. If you want to come over and talk about this and talk about your future and stuff, I'm happy to do it. Okay?
Thank you so much.
I gotta put on a time.